listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Camuno here. We are back with episode 94 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
I'm ecstatic. Mainly because I think last week we talked about it. We were closing on that house officially. And remember, I submitted an offer for $280,000 on the property, and we were going to get it appraised last week. So the appraisal came back. It was on last Friday, so the day after the podcast had dropped. The appraisal came back, and my agent had told me, "Man, we got some real bad news." The appraisal came back at $250,000. So that's $30,000 less than what I offered on the property. And so now you're at a situation where you have to make a decision. So do I just move on? Do I move on the property, like I still try to purchase it and pay $30,000 out of pocket? Because that's the first option. That's because the bank is only going to loan me based on that $250,000 appraisal. So option one is paying $30,000 out of pocket. I ain't got that. So option number two is to back out of the deal. And this has been a year-long process, and I'm like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to look for any more houses. I'm so sick of seeing new listing popped up in Houston area. I'm like, bro, I don't even want to see another listing. So don't want that option either. Option number three is to negotiate with the seller. And so now you can offer him whatever you want, whether it's $260, whether it's $255, $250, and you just got to hope that he was willing to negotiate with you. And in this case, I offered $250,000. That was the price that the appraisal came back at, and we're going to see if he was going to be reasonable with it. The next day, later on that evening, my agent called back and said, "We have great news." He took the $250,000 offer. So I literally just cut off $30,000 of my purchase price of the house just from the negotiation and being willing to stand there and think through the options instead of just screaming and saying, "Well, just forget the deal. I'm gonna just stay with my parents' house." I could have did that, but I just had to think through my options, thought about all three of those, and said I'm gonna just go with option two with the $250,000 offer. If he didn't accept, then I would have backed out because I'm not paying $30,000 out of pocket, and I would have got my earnest money back because that's like a terms and conditions of the earnest money is that if the house doesn't appraise, you'll get your earnest money back and you can keep on looking for another property.
Yeah.
So that's the option I went with, and we should be closing by the time this episode airs.
Oh, this week?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, that's super clutch because that literally was a whole 180-degree reversal on what the other outcome could have been.
Exactly.
Which could have been a mega L for that. So that is a blessing, man, because $30,000 is a significant change in the Lord have mercy. $30,000 is a significant change in the mortgage that you're going to pay.
Yes.
Right? What is that, like
big.
$100, $200 a month?
Yep. So it's about $200, and that means that now the rent that I expect to rent out the main house for would now cover the entire mortgage payment. Like that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance all covered through the rent that I'll be collecting from the front. So now it'll pretty much break even while I'm living in the back house. So imagine when I'm renting out the back house, now it'll be cash flowing even better than I was before.
Yeah, that's major because that's major. I mean, that's essentially, obviously too with financial freedom, the goal is to eliminate your housing expense as much as possible, house hacking. So that's going to help contribute to that as well. Significantly. I mean, $200 a month is if we're talking about level 1 financial freedom in terms of leaving your job, that's a significant amount. When you're talking level 2, level 3, that's very insignificant. But for level 1,
man.
Yeah, man, because at the end of the day, $200 a month could be the difference between needing to stay at my job and actually being able to leave the job because now, I need that much more each month to pay. And it's not like I could just increase the rent because the market don't call for that yet.
Yeah.
So that's good. And I think for the seller too, he was probably more in a situation as well where it's like, because I know the house wasn't on the market long, but if it doesn't appraise, then at the end of the day, what is the options? Like you just got to pretty much, he knows it's not going to appraise the next time probably too. Unless maybe you go with another bank another, if the
Another
buyer has
appraiser.
another lender, yeah, and they use a different appraisal, which they probably would, but the odds of that, like, I don't even know if there's like a database where they can see the previous appraisals too, which that would be very trash if there was, because that I think makes it very subjective and not very objective. Which an appraisal is very subjective anyway, so I don't know. But still, then I think he was probably in a situation where it's like, yeah, at least I got a guaranteed buyer at 250. He was probably trying to get as high as he could anyway, just in this market. He was probably pushing it because what was it listed for, like 265,
It was 270 listed.
270? Yeah, so he was probably like, yeah, I'm still good with 250 because I'm sure he still made a good profit off of it.
And I wanted to also highlight this part of it because I think about like the term luck that we talk about, laboring under correct knowledge. I
Yeah.
think back to when I first saw this property, I had reached out to that seller's or to the seller's agent and realized that he was the seller like later on after had the conversation with him. But when I reached out to him, I was just pretty much giving him my situation, saying, "Man, I'm really interested in your property. I'm really looking to get into it as soon as possible because I've been looking for a full year. I've offered on like 5 or 6 other properties, have some of the under contract. It was those have all been shut down because of this, that, and the other, and pretty much just showing like a sense of vulnerability, but just showing that I'm a genuine person more so than anything else that's interested in your property versus just being a number of like the number of offer that I came in, the first offer, the second offer. Instead of just being that type of person, now I'm an actual person that has a story behind myself. And I learned that just through the process of going through this entire 1 year of offering on properties and being unsuccessful. And that's so you just learn that you have to do something a little bit extra as opposed to what everybody else is doing in order to get what nobody else is getting. So in order to get that property, you got what else can you do besides put in the offer? Can you get in contact with the seller? Can you add an extra contingency that say I will offer more than than your other highest offer? What else can you do to separate yourself?
Yeah, that's all it is at the end of the day. And you gotta just be aware of the market you're in. And if it's a seller's market, understand they had a lot of leverage. So they have multiple people coming to them. So you had to make yourself stand out. What are you doing to make your offer the best? Because you ain't the only offer. So whatever competitive slight edge you got to give yourself, it's what you got to do today. If you're looking to get into real estate today and buy properties today specifically. If you're selling properties, you could literally just throw that joint out there and it's gonna sell. But if you're buying, another game. So that's dope, man. I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, so I'll be in change of scenery soon enough in the next couple of episodes potentially. So stay tuned for like the story of like what's going on with the property in the future episodes. But how you doing overall?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I think wrapping up the month here soon. So this will air on the 22nd. But July has been a pretty good month in terms of business. It's been slower, but it's
I
picked
was
up
about to
over the
ask that. Bigger than so June's been the best month so far.
Yeah, June's been the best month. Their July still has potential. I mean, we have 10 days left in July. So there's still potential for July to eclipse June's total revenue. I'm just talking revenue. So it's just a matter of
But the way it's trending, it's not as fast as June was.
honestly, it's been a little faster.
Okay.
But the thing is, I don't I don't know. I feel like, I mean, 10 days is a long time, but at the same time I feel like it's not a long time. So because that's the end of next week. So we'll see what happens over the course of the next 7 days to actually get that number. My goal is to get 35,000. That's what I did in June. I just want to hit that again. So I'm like 5,000 away right now as of now. Actually I just checked. Actually, right before the call, I was like 4,000 away. So I definitely should get it.
Yeah, I don't know what your concern is. I had a whole story for you, but I don't see what the concern is if you're that close to it.
I mean, I always like to assume I'm not gonna get it, and then I always want to just say,
You like to surprise yourself. Hey,
yeah,
man, congrats.
because it always be so close. At the end of every month, I always have a target that I set like at the beginning of the month, and I swear every month it's like the whole thing of like, the concept of Parkinson's law, right? Where time expands as to fill the work needed to complete for its completion, right? It's honestly almost a similar principle in the sense of like if I say, hey, I'm gonna hit 35,000, I'm gonna hit 40,000 this month. It's like I do just enough work to get
Yeah.
45,000, or I get just enough. It's not even about the work. It's really about the amount of leads that come in, amount of sales that I make, all those kinds of things. Like the amount that I close. It's like I always just close just enough to barely hit that number.
$40,001 is what you're going to get.
Yes, but I think the thing is, it's because I'm always hiring, so I always have more capability. Because before, a lot of people are very short term, so they're like, "Hey, I need a cleaning yesterday," and it's like, all right, obviously we can't accommodate you, but like the more staff I hire, the more availability I have, then I can accommodate more of those leads that actually come in. Because in the past, there's been a lot of times where it's like, anytime I didn't have availability because someone wanted something like the next day, and I was like, all right, actually we don't have availability. I looked at it as that's my fault. I should have had I should have had another staff. I should have had someone else. Yeah, they're fools for trying to get something last minute, but I should have had someone. I should have had someone to be able to accommodate that. So now, that's how I look at it in terms of always hiring. So I just hired another person in Austin. I fired someone in Austin. I just hired another person in Austin. So, that kind of balanced that out, and Austin money is different. So
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, I think in two, I hired the operations manager here that she should be starting this week, hopefully. So I trained her up yesterday, and that took a few hours. So now hopefully those kinds of things will be able to allow me to close more leads. But it's I think I'm confident I should be able to hit my 35,000 this month. Maybe I should have set it for 40, but
then you would have hit 40. Whatever goal you set, you don't. That's why it's important to be careful what goals you set, because you just might hit it.
yeah.
People say that a lot. So if you set your goals low, you just might hit that low goal, and that's like all you hit too. But no, the way that your approach, I just want to comment on this because this was like super key with your approach to when that person tried to book a lead or try to book a cleaning last minute. You can look at anybody can look at any situation in one of two ways. In that case, you can either look at this as the person's fault for booking too late, and so it's like you can pretty much put the blame on them, or you can put the blame on yourself and say, what can I have done differently to make sure I could have closed that lead? Most people naturally result to looking at the other person or looking at somebody else outside of themselves, and that's because they want to be the last person to change. They want everybody else to change first before they change. But if you start saying that I can be the one that changes, that's how you can become in that mindset of getting 1% better every day.
Yeah.
And so now you can evaluate yourself, and you have the potential to affect your personal change versus somebody else. You can't tell the other person, hey, just book earlier next time, because they're gonna just go with somebody else and keep acting how they've always acted. But you can do what you can reevaluate what you have or what you're doing in your business and make the change, and go into effect because you have control over that situation.
Right. And that's all it is at the end of the day. Control what you can control. Right. I can't control them calling and or them, trying to book. Most people are very in the now people. Like they want stuff now. They don't think long. They don't think ahead of time. Most people, it's very rare where someone books something a month ahead of time. Exactly. Very rare. It happens, and I'd be so happy. I'm like, I even be telling. I'll be like, you know what? I actually appreciate you for booking so far in ahead.
You're in the top 1% of people doing that.
Easily 99% of people are calling trying to get stuff same day. That's just general human nature.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I say it just says like I control what I can control, which is having staff available. So me not having someone to accommodate that last minute request, and by last minute I mean next day, not same day, but
yeah,
I look at it as like, yo, that's on me. I should have had more staff. So now I know I need to go higher, because now if that happens, that means it's continuing to continuously happen, because now most people, if I can't accommodate them, that means I probably can't accommodate the next person that's going to say that. So what does that mean? I'm losing out on money. I'm spending money and I'm losing out on money. And it's not even for any fault of it's all of my own fault. So that's where it's like, yo, you got to look at it yourself. Always try. The best thing you can really do in everything in life is like, anytime there's a problem, is look at, what, and this is easier said than done, but look at what was your role in the demise or in the downfall of the situation, whatever the case may be. What was your role in it? How could you have improved it? But that's just how I say it. What was that story you said you were about to tell?
About what exactly? Because I don't
I
even know.
I had said you said I was saying something.
Oh,
You said that you had a story, but
no, I had a whole story on that as far as if you were doing less than this month in comparison to the month of June,
mm,
and I could still tell it because it's a general entrepreneurship principle. Like if you are like, don't think that every month is going to beat last
yeah,
month when it comes to entrepreneurship,
yeah,
because that's the difference between 9 to 5 work versus entrepreneurship.
yeah,
You can be trending upwards, like, and on top of that, there's going to be seasons where
yeah.
you had to do like really really well. Then the very next month you'd be like, dang, bro, we did equal to 3 months ago this month. And it's just, so that's the difference in mentality that you have to like flip that switch in your head about, because you need to understand that you're not this is not a steady every month it's the same month type of business or type of environment. Not, this is something that
Income,
has ups and
revenue.
downs. Yeah, income and revenue is going
Yeah,
to be different now versus when you are just in a general 9 to 5. Like it's not going to be as predictable, and things always can happen. So you have to be very quick to just adapt to change. Like you have to be very fluid, and that's just the difference in mentality that you have to have with that approach, with the approach to business, because like things happen and you have to be ready to solve problems, and that's why you have to also have like reserves in place for those months when you don't have the same income as the previous month, and just be okay with understanding that everything works in cycles.
yeah, man. It's a fact. That's the world you enter in. The thing is, with 9 to 5, your ceiling is capped. So
Yep.
it's like if you look at like a whew, what's how to think of what is it called? Amplitude trough in terms of I think it's the amplitude. Trough is this one, but the amplitude is like the height of it.
Hmm.
If you look at 9 to 5, it's consistent. Yo, I'm thinking of freaking calculus from
I
college
swear.
with the sine functions and thinking of graphing them stupid things. But if you look at a 9 to 5, if you graph the income, it's gonna be the same every single month,
Hmm.
right? But like businesses, it varies, and that's the beauty of it though, because
Yes.
there's no ceiling, right? Now it can be infinite if you wanted to, depending on how ambitious you are. It doesn't matter at your 9 to 5, no matter how ambitious you are, your ceiling
Oh
is capped.
man.
Doesn't matter. It's because you don't own it. You don't control it. So, whenever you are in business, that to me is the best part about business, is the fact that I control my own destiny. It's like I make as much as I want to make. If I want to work harder and make more, go do it. 9 to 5, you, you anyone that, and I hate to say this, but like anyone that sits here and thinks realistically that the harder I work, the more on time I show up, the more effort I show, the better I do, that I'm going to, benefit from that. Put on your clown makeup, bro. Put on your shoes, bro. Like that is not factual at all. Because at the end of the day, you're like I said, you're filling a position. You have a job that's in a position. You can always be replaced. It doesn't matter what you do. You can always be replaced. And that's why, I'm such an advocate for business and financial freedom. Because no, it's like that's why one of my favorite shirts to wear is that shout out Andre Hatchett. The You can't fire me, the boss.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good one.
Oh, that was actually Bravado Life. But who?
No, Andre Hatch's owner be owned.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know why she. Anyways, but yeah, that's saying that shirt is like one of my favorite shirts to wear, because it's like, yo, you cannot fire me. Nobody can fire me. And when I love wearing it too, because when I walk around, people they look at your chest and then they look up at you and they be like, oh, but you
Oh, he's the
can't fire.
boss.
Yeah, they be like,
No,
this dude think he is. I'm like, yeah, better ask somebody.
no, that's a fact. I'm very visual. So as soon as you started talking about like there's no ceiling, I started envisioning if you had to plot out your entire monthly pay from the time you first started working all the way until you retired, you would probably see like a steady line with like very small increases every single year, because that's when you get your pay increase, and you may have overtime, of course, so there's that. But just your standard pay, it was going to be very, very incremental. It's going to be about the same all throughout your entire career. Like I said, you may have promotions, you may have raises and stuff like that, but it's not going to be anything significant. But in business, I'm just gonna take you for a perfect example. The first couple of months, you were seeing like 5,000, 10,000, and then all of a sudden
Not
you
even
start.
that.
So, matter of fact, that's a good point, because in the beginning it was slow, and it was you weren't reaping a lot of rewards for it. But what happens is that over time it's going to start clicking, and then you're going to see exponential growth overall. So now it's going to it spikes up because there is no ceiling. So now you get a taste of what could be. And then if you are a visionary that continues to think forward and like what could be after this, then you're going to start seeing even bigger spikes. There's going to still be lower months than the previous months every now and again. But the best thing about it is that your low month in this business is equal to probably 3 times what you were making at the 9 to 5,
Right.
or more than that.
Yeah.
So your bad day, your bad month is 3 times better than somebody else's best month. And that's the perspective you have to look at it with, and understand that this is just part of the game that you're playing in entrepreneurship versus the 9 to 5 life.
Man, and that's like my favorite principle right now that I just live my life on, in terms of like being able to do, everything we do, is like, even in terms of looking at worst case scenarios, like my worst case scenario is going to be usually is like most people's normal life. So my worst case scenario, and that's why it's like you always got to look at like where you are in life, and look at your worst possible case scenario. Like, what is the worst thing that if you took that risk, if you jumped out and you actually made that leap of faith, what is the worst possible thing that's going to happen to you? Right? For me, as a 25-year-old that is single with no kids, no wife, thank God, the worst possible thing that can happen is that I'm going to go get another job, which is going to be most people's normal. Like if I go and try entrepreneurship and I, try it for 2 months, 3 months, I fail, I fall flat on my face. The worst possible thing is I'm going to fill out an application and go apply for another job and live my life the way everyone else lives their life every single day. Worst. That's the worst thing. What's the best? Oh my God. The ceiling, there's no ceiling. And that goes back to it. There's no ceiling with entrepreneurship or business. You can change your life within a year, within a few months, sticking to something. There's no ceiling, man. And that's what I want people to realize, especially if you're young. Just always look at your worst possible case scenario. For me, man, that worst case, and that's why it's like I ain't afraid of nothing, bro. I lose $100,000, and it's like, dang, let me try again.
I'm glad. I see we're not gonna get to the topic today because we're gonna just keep going with this. But nah, because that was good too. Because you just said I could lose $100,000. Most people are concerned about losing $200 or $100, and they like, man, I can't risk that much money. My God, that's gonna be so insignificant when after you step over your own fear, take the risk, and see what you can potentially gain. Like those figures are going to get smaller and smaller. $1,000 is now small. 10,000 is small because now you see the potential gain that you can make. Like, you don't want to lose it, of course, but at the same time, you are willing to put it up because you know the potential gain that you can make, rather than thinking about what could go wrong. You think about what can go right.
Right. Hey, that's a bar. Rather than thinking about what can go wrong, let's think about what can go right. And that's all it is at the end of the day, because it's like it's really just a mindset shift in terms of like what is your perspective on it, right? What is your perspective on your situation? Is it like I'm looking at it as if I am, in a situation where it's like I'm trying something and I don't it really comes back to like what's the mindset you're in that you're pursuing this thing in, right? Because if I'm pursuing this with a mindset of like I'm actually going to do this, like people know deep down if it's something that like they know they're actually going to do. Like I know deep down, I'm not going to even lie to you. Like when we first had financial freedom in terms of like retiring early, it wasn't like conviction 100% immediately.
Not the same way.
It was because it was just like you didn't know what you didn't know. Number one, it's like at the same time you wasn't 100% confident because it was something new and it's like not normal, right? So I knew, because if I look at it with something I knew I was confident with, I knew even in college that I would get a high-paying job as an engineer. I was 100% convicted about that. Graduated from college, 21 years old. I'm looking at it as like, yeah, I want financial freedom by age 28, but I was not immediately 100% convicted that I would get it. I'm just being 100% honest about it. It probably took me really like honestly, it probably took me to 2019 to see it. Once I saw the possibilities with business and actually like when I switched the formula from instead of just real estate to now business, that's when I saw the possibility. That's when my mindset shifted to know like, and the reason it's so important to be convicted is because it's gonna follow your actions. Like if I am 100% convicted that I can get financial freedom from my business, I'm not gonna think about going back to my job. It's not gonna be even a thought. But if I'm timid and I'm approaching it as if like, yeah, okay, if I fail here, I can at least go back to my job. Yeah, I said that's the thing, but I don't have that in the back of my head. Like that's not even an option. That's almost like death. Like going, that's the worst case scenario, but it's almost like you might as well slit my throat. Like, cause that is bad, man. Like that's slavery. And I don't want to do that. So it's like I'm convicted now so much in this that it puts the worst case scenario out of your mind. And that's when it goes back to like what you were saying. It's like, are you looking at what could go wrong and what could go right? I'm looking at what could go right. What can go wrong? Yeah, I can go back to my job, but that's not even my concern. I'm looking at, I can make 10K a month, 50K a month here by the time I'm, 20 years old. That's all I'm looking at.
You basically did that as a game. It's like I got to put down both answers, so I'm gonna write down what could go wrong. Okay, I guess my worst case is going to 9 to 5. Okay, I got that written down. Then you play the other game of okay, what can go right. Now you list all those out, and like I said, the what can go wrong was just a formality at that point. It's like yeah, that's what can go wrong, but I'm not even thinking about that. Like that was just the assignment that I was given to answer that question. But I also want to hit on you said that you didn't really get convicted about it until 2019. And that's because you don't necessarily have the right information at the time to know definitively how it's going to be done. But the big thing that you did that most people don't do is that you decided to make the goal regardless of knowing how to get there. Yeah. And most people are too afraid to do that piece because they can't visualize themselves achieving something. They won't even say that they want it in the first place. They will just say, you know what, I can't see myself getting that because I don't know the way to get there. So I'm not even going to make that goal, and I'm gonna just continue to do what I've always been doing. Yeah. That's the biggest difference because that separates the ones that pursue anything versus that do nothing. Yeah. And that's like by you going on that journey, the answers started revealing themselves to you because you took the first step. So now when you get to step 5 or 6, now a more definitive plan begins to form because you get access to the right information because you've been doing the right things beforehand. That's like luck when we're talking about laboring under correct knowledge. So now you start running into things that other people may miss, but you see it as opportunity because you now have the right information. We have the right mindset to approach it the right way.
Yeah, and it to me that just goes back to like I know that a definitive a how should I say this? I don't want to butcher it. I want to say it right. An indefinite plan that's backed by action is better than a definite plan that's done with uncertainty, right? An indefinite plan that's done with confidence and certainty. Like I didn't know for 100% how I was going to do it. Like I knew what I was going to do, but I didn't know 100% how. I was just doing it. I was just going about it. An indefinite plan done with confidence is going to be a lot better than a definite plan done lacklusterly or timidly. I promise. Because the thing is, a switch is going to click at some point. And once that switch clicks, now you have a definite plan backed with confidence, right? But it's just about getting that switch to click. But a lot of people never get to the point where the switch clicks.
That's because they never started to begin with it. Like, so there's a quote that parallels what you're trying to say. I love this one. I was just thinking about this one like yesterday. Yeah. Ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice.
That's a fact.
That's because like if you don't have to know you don't have to know how to get there, but because you are constantly pursuing it, it's going to reveal itself to you because you're taking the right actions to get them to reveal themselves in the first place. Yeah. Versus knowing everything, like I don't want to. You can utilize people that have read Rich Dad Poor Dad, for instance. Like when we used to talk about that all the time, I had people at my old job that said, "Oh yeah, man, I read that book. That was a good book." And then I read the next book, like just reading random books, just like thinking that's just a book to pick up, put down, and read the next one. Like so, you have the right knowledge, but you're not applying anything. So that basically means that you have the right knowledge, but it's on ice. In that quote that I gave earlier. Yeah. So which one's going to yield the best results? It's going to be the ignorance on fire. I don't have to know everything, but I know enough to just start taking action and figure it out along the way.
Yeah, man. I think that's just like something people, that's like a mindset shift people just got to come to at some point to understand that whole concept, because that alone is going to be pivotal for you in this journey to financial freedom and wealth. Is like just taking action, man. There's nothing that beats action. Nothing. Take action, you apply it, man. There is nothing that's like going to stop you, because at some point that switch will click. So I was going to say that click will switch.
Yeah, that click on switch, man. Eventually.
Yeah, I caught myself. But yeah, man, what I want to do now, we had actually a topic that we wanted to talk about, so we can get into that. So, the other day, what's today? Today is the 20th. The other day, I had put on my Instagram story a interesting question that I was curious about, and I forgot what provoked me to ask this, but I asked it, and I asked the people, would you rather have $100 earned passively or $1,000 earned from trading your time at work? And it was an interesting response, because I think that the responses were skewed based off of the fact that my audience is already predisposed to what I speak about.
Yeah.
So the results pretty much said it was around, I think it was like, I think it was nearly, I think it was like 75 or 80% said they would take the $100 earned passively. Right. And I would assume most people listening to this would say the same. It would probably even be a higher percentage.
Yeah.
Probably like 90% of people would say they would take $100 earned passively. Somebody that said they'll take 1,000, they sitting there right now listening to this. They're like, damn, that's actually
like, wait, hold on, wait. Is there a right answer to that?
Yeah, but that means, okay, so 75% of people, 75, 80% of people said they would take the $100. 20% said they would take $1,000 earned. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is interesting, because like I said, my audience is already predisposed to what I speak about, and they know like what in theory is the right answer, right? What they think I'm saying is the right answer. They think most people, I don't know how many of those actually generally believe that they would rather have, because it's a scenario, but if you present the options, money talks. So a lot of people will see that as like 1,000 or 100, and they say, especially if they say you only got to go trade in like 10 hours, or that's $100 an hour. So a lot of people will say, ooh, that's different, right? And that's the thing. That's why it was such an interesting question, because I didn't put any specifics with it. I didn't say for how long you had to trade in your time. I didn't say how you earned the $100 passively. I just said trade in your time or earn it passively. And I want to see where people's mindset was. And I got some interesting responses, because a lot of people messaged me and they were like, yeah, but how long do I have to trade it? Blah, 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 blah. Like all these, all these things. It's like, dude, just answer the question. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is interesting, because let's say I put the same poll on, the Shade Room or Hollywood Unlocked or, Justin LeBoy or any one of these pages, it wouldn't be a similar response. It would be I think it would be a lot, honestly, I think it would be honestly even skewed towards the $1,000, because a lot of on those gossip pages, most of those people, they are very financially illiterate, in the sense of like they don't necessarily understand the concept of passive income versus earned income, and trading your time for money versus allowing money to work for you. So I think most people will just look at it in the sense of like, what's the higher dollar amount? Most people don't value time as a medium of exchange. And so it's interesting, because I think it would have very definitely been skewed towards more people would have been saying $1,000 an hour. And to me, it's like when people say, hey, but how many hours and like how many things, that's telling me you would pick the $1,000, because now it's just a condition, right? Because now it's conditional based off of how much you believe you're actually worth, right? And how much you believe, someone should pay you based on you trading your time. If I tell you I'm gonna pay you $1,000, that's the thing. That should be the first thing someone should ask me. If they say, "Hey, you want 1,000?" If you're gonna ask me, if someone told me this is what I'm gonna say. If someone says, "Do you want $1,000 by trading your time for money, or do you want $100 earned passively?" My first question is gonna be, how long did it take me to earn the $1,000? How much of my time did I have to actually trade, right? Because if you tell me that I only got to trade in 1 minute,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be a fool not to take. But even then, you might not be a fool because it depends who you're talking to.
Yep.
Right? Because hold on.
I'm boiling over here.
I know. Because if you ask someone, that does trade in their time for money regularly but makes a high amount per minute, they're gonna say that's useless. Give me $100 passively, right? Because if I told LeBron James, "Hey, you want $1,000," and he says, "How long would it take me to earn it?" I say 1 minute. He's like, "I'll take the 100." I take the 100 because I can earn more doing my regular job than what I can from what you're offering me. I can earn more. How much? Let's do the math real quick. How much does LeBron James earn per minute? They be having these breakdowns.
High key.
Here we go. Here we go. LeBron. This was in 2018, but it's pretty accurate. LeBron James' contract will see him get paid $162 per second. This is when he signed with the Lakers in 2018. 162 per second. We have 60 seconds in a minute. That is $9,720 per minute. He ain't taking $1,000 a minute because he can get 9 times that, right? And so it depends who you ask. And so there's so much I want to get into here in this conversation, but I want to let you jump in before I do the whole episode before you say a word. So I'm gonna let you hop in there and kind of add to that dialogue.
Man, we definitely had a little bit of a conversation before this, but this really boils down to a question of can you be bought? And we're answering that question because everybody has their price. And so like you're a perfect example because of what you just said. $1,000 after 10 hours of work is not appealing to you at this moment in time. But $1,000 after a minute of trading in, yes, now you've appealed to me. That means that you can be bought, but there's going to be conditions, and it's going to be about how much time, because at least you do value how much time you trade in, and that's really that's going to be the scale that you're looking at. Yeah. So the person that is willing to work. So matter of fact, I'm going to just put it very practical. Most people work two weeks at a time to make that $1,000, or the whole month to make that $1,000. So that means they traded in 20 to 40 hours to make that 1,000, versus somebody that values time more. They are going to look at trading in time as like, man, I value my time too much. I'd rather take that 100 because I can go spend my time to produce more income somewhere else.
Right.
And that's the key difference, is that some people value time, some people value money, and some people value the money more than time. And people that value money more than time are usually the ones that make less money. And that's really just how that works. Because when you value time a lot, that means that you probably are used to doing more high income activities. So you're not going to see every single way of making money as a true money making opportunity. So making more money in this case of the $1,000 means I got to trade in time. I could probably be using that time to scale my business. I could be using that time to get more clients that are bringing in more income per month for me, way beyond that $1,000 a month, or that $1,000 of earned income. Yeah. And so that's how people that value time more, they are thinking of high income activities, versus the person that's taking that $1,000. They probably are used to low income activities in the end of the day. And so you're not used to making money at a larger volume, like LeBron James making his the money that he makes with his contracts. He's used to making a larger volume of money for the time he puts in, not $1,000. So it's not even appealing to him anymore.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about it. It's like, it's all relative, number one, but even aside from that, right? Or let's stick to that even for a second, right? Because LeBron James is one tax bracket, but Jeff Bezos is another.
For sure.
Right? LeBron ain't even in Jeff Bezos' stratosphere. They're not even. LeBron barely gonna touch a billion. I'm saying barely. LeBron barely gonna hit a billion this year. I mean, in total career earnings and revenue. Jeff Bezos has that much times 200 in his equity of his company, right? And his assets. So to me, it's like you got to understand, number one, who you're asking. But the reason that this was such an interesting conversation and question from generally for most people is because, like you were saying also as well, is like this is a concept that a lot of people are it's foreign to them, because to them it's like, number one, they value money more than time, right? So because if you tell most people if they can get the $1,000 in 10 hours, most people will take that, because most people
Yeah.
don't make $100 an hour. That's like the top. That's like, I'm sure like the top 1% of people make $100 an hour. So most people, even if you said 10 hours, most people would take that, right? But so I'm at this point in time, for me personally, I'm taking the $100 and passively, because to me, like I said, I know that the thing it's a premise to it. The thing I did, and let's say this is generally in business. Let's say my business can, or my investments could make me $100 passively, or I can go to a job and trade in my time for $100 an hour per day for 10 hours. And let's just generalize that, right? The things, the things that I did in order to make that $100 passively, I just now need to figure out how to scale that, right? That's now becomes my primary objective. How can I scale this formula that I created to make this $100 an hour passively? Because now, if I figure out how to scale that and do that at scale and do that at high volumes, the $100 an hour or $1,000 earned, it becomes stupid. It almost becomes like a Jeff Bezos, LeBron James conversation in a sense, because now it's like, why would I even do that? I can, if I can earn that, if I can scale that, now I use the time that I freed up from taking the $100 an hour. Yeah, it's not, or I keep saying an hour, taking the $100 passively, and I use that free time to figure out how to scale the operation. And that's essentially what the difference between entrepreneurship and 9 to 5 work is. It's taking, buying your time, or no, you work a 9 to 5, at some point you start your business on the side. So early on, you're doing both. But at some point, hopefully, if you've done things right and you do things enough and consistently, your business will be able to out earn your 9 to 5. Well, not even, let's not even say that. Your business will be able to supplement your lifestyle, right? That's the first objective. Level 1 financial freedom. It's your first objective. It can be for some people, and I'm not mad if this is your objective, but your first objective is to supplement is to be able to cover your lifestyle outside of your 9 to 5. And then your next objective should be to match your 9 to 5 income, right? Because, and for some people, it could, if you make less than, if you make a very small amount than your 9 to 5, then it could be just to max your 9 to 5 income immediately. But generally speaking, let's say you make, 50, 60,000 a year, you just need to figure out how to get to that. Whatever if my living expenses is 3,000 a month, I just need to get to 3,000 a month. Then I'll get to my 5,000 a month to match my 9 to 5. Because the thing is, once I can now free up my time, that's what you do when you match your when you cover your living expenses. You freed up your time. Now that I've freed up my time, I can spend this additional freed up time. Even though I'm making less, I have to take a pay decrease momentarily, right? Even it may be for a year, it might be for 2 years, it might be for 5 years that I have to take a pay decrease momentarily. But now I can use this time to figure out how can I get this 3,000 a month to 30,000 a month to 300,000 a month to $3 million a month. That's the difference, right? That is the reason I'm taking the $100 all day, because at the end of the day, I know it's like everyone can be bought. There's a price. Anything and everyone can be bought, right? Anyone. If I just said $1,000 a minute, you bought me. I'm yours. Put me in shackles right now, right? I don't know how long I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be happy with that, but right now, put me in shackles. I'm cool. I ain't mad at it. But $100 an hour, nah, that ain't enough to buy me. So, anyone could be bought, anything could be bought. There's a price for anything. Because in order for there to be a price, there has to be value. In order for there to be value, that's determined by the person, by the buyer, right? It's not determined by the seller. It's determined by the buyer. So, and in this example, well, I guess technically your employer will be the buyer, right? They
They're
determine your
buying you
price.
at a price, yeah.
Yeah, they determine what your value is. And to me, it's like I've never been someone that lets other people determine what my value is. I mean, even like when I graduated college, it was just like it was like, yo, they offered me something. I'm like, nah, son. I need at least 10. I need 10 more. I
Yeah.
need 10 more bands a year. Cause I know it's like, y'all offered that to that dude. I'm worth more to him. I'm worth more to him. I know some people take that the wrong way. Get out
Nah,
your
I'm gonna talk about this.
Yeah, get out your feelings. That's just not you. I'm saying like the people listening. But
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I'm about to talk about it because I want to hit on that too.
yeah,
Because I remember back then when you were so adamant about getting your number, and I was looking, man, I look back at this. This is why I talk about mindset so much because it's literally that's what it is a transformation in mindset of how you were back then versus how you are today, and like seeing how you view things. Because back then I'm looking at you like, man, just go and just take the lower number, like take like 5K less or whatever, like meet in the middle. But you like, no, I'm standing firm in my number because this is what I feel like my time is worth. And I'm like that. I'm looking at that today. I'm like, that is a great trait to have as far as early on, because especially with the information that you had at that moment in time, because you always had the value of I know my worth and I'm not gonna take less than that. And that's what most people actually lack. That's probably why they were willing to give it to you, because they're like, man, this dude's just different.
yeah,
Because he's not like he does not value this job more than he values knowing his own worth. And that's what most people just don't have that. And but when you transform that mindset, that's when nobody can short sell you.
yeah,
They're not going to, they can't buy you at a discount. And
yeah.
at some point, they can't buy you at all because
Mm,
your worth is way too valuable at that point. You
can't afford
value,
me.
yeah, you can't, exactly. They can't afford you at this point. Like, that's why going back to a job, it's not even a possibility when you're making so much money to the point where was to where it's not even mathematically making sense to go back to a job in the first place. Like if you're making, like you said with LeBron, what was he making, 9,000 a minute?
Yeah, 9,000 a minute, 162 a second.
Right. So expound that over to whatever that is per hour, 9,700 times 60, whatever that number is per hour. Why would I settle for getting paid $30 an hour or $100 an hour? Like that, the transition is if y'all can see on YouTube right now, it's 583,000 per hour. So it don't even make mathematical sense to go to a job that's going to pay me $30 an hour, even though to somebody else that's making $15 an hour, that sounds like a miracle. That's
Yeah,
why we talk about the mindset of people when because most people are probably in a position where they're making $15 to $20 an hour, and then so when you offer them $100 an hour, which because you said $1,000 earned
10 hours.
over 10 hours, if you offer them that, they're like, oh yeah, I'm taking that all day. So basically, you can be bought at a well, for one, you're already bought anyway at $15 an hour, so you can easily be bought at $100 an hour. But that just shows that you don't have the mindset of I can't be bought from anybody else, because I know that I can make, I don't, like LeBron was making $583,000 an hour. If you don't believe that for yourself, you're gonna settle with being bought by somebody at a much, much, much lesser price. But so you have to know your own worth and know the possibilities of what you can do when your time is fully free and you can just work on you and building your
Right.
business the way you want it to look. Because nobody's gonna pay you what you can do for yourself.
And that's the thing. People don't realize how valuable their time is because now you've been bought for so long. You're not conditioned to believe your time is only worth 30, 40, $50 if you're good per hour, right? You don't believe that your time could possibly be worth $1,000 an hour. And that's why a lot of people they just lack that they can actually build a business because they don't think they can actually do that because they've been conditioned so long to believe their time was only worth this trash, pathetic $30 an hour if you are high paid, right? And so to me, it's just about you always got to know that you are, and even like because you mentioned too, like in terms of like when I was like negotiating that kind of stuff when I was 21, it's like obviously I wasn't doing it with the intention of ever, it was just more so like I just want to be rich one day, but I didn't know how it would unfold. But I knew at the end of the day, it's like I know that if you offer me something, you're offering me less than what you think that I'm actually worth.
That's a big one.
Because it's to me, it's just like you're not gonna offer me what you think I'm worth immediately. Because you got to see what do I. You have to, as the employer, you got to see. Let's see, does this dude actually? Let's see, does he actually even value himself at all? Does he
They're
actually
gonna
even
test
care?
you.
I'm not gonna give you, what you think you want right off the bat. I'm gonna give you this and see what you come back with. So to me, it's like, and that was just the thing though. Like most people, bro, who was 21 years old at that time. It's like most people they get offered that what we got offered. It's like they like, oh shoot, thank you. I'm taking that. Because you've been bought already. In your mind,
Yep.
you've already been bought. You've been bought for the last 20 years before you even got offered a job. You've been bought already psychologically. It's all a mindset thing. You can't buy me. Ain't no price you can buy me for. Right? At this point, it's gonna cost you. And it might cost you more than you could pay, than you could. I mean not even cap. If you offered me the 583,000 like LeBron, I'd be like, all right, you know, I could work a little bit or something, but that's the price right now.
Yeah, but that's okay. Like you have to be confident enough to name your price no matter what it is. And if they can't pay it, you're not going to be working for them.
Yeah.
And that's what most people don't understand is their own worth. Because I think about there's so many people that reach out to me about the rental car space, for instance, and they got their car on the platform and they're getting it rented out, and they're like, "Yo, I've never made money this easy." And I'm scared every time somebody rents out. I'm like, "Yo, this not even right." Like they feel like they're cheating almost.
Legal.
That's because that's because you only saw that your time was worth this much, like so it's worth $10-15 an hour, until you realize that it's actually worth a lot more when you apply yourself and put the right systems in place to build a business that can make you way more than that. Because once you see that you can do it, then you'll start to believe. But right now, you don't even think you can because you've never done it before, and so you're gonna stay in that limiting belief that whatever your employer offers you is what you're truly worth. But you're worth way more than that. But you have to know it for yourself.
Ah, man, this mic getting hot. Mike's getting hot. And it's just like, yo, this is a conversation that people need to hear, because if nobody tells you this or nobody introduces this concept, you will just you'll keep getting bought every year. And by the way, like you you really lose if you want to think of it. You're actually getting lowball every single year, because now you think about inflation, you think about high increased cost of living. They not some jobs don't even compensate you with inflation, by the way. So this is just something that you got to think of, because they're not going to do it for you. They're going to keep buying you at a discount. Whatever they think you're worth, that's what they're going to do. And I'm not mad at them. It's business.
That's business. That's a straight business decision right there for them. Like
Yeah.
they can't physically do that. They're not gonna tell you, oh yeah, man, I know that you're actually worth this much. I'm gonna pay you this much, even though you don't know it or not. They're
They'll
gonna
lose
take
money.
They're gonna take full advantage of knowing that you're worth way more than what we're paying you, and we're gonna continue doing that.
Right. And yeah, I'm not saying it's like everyone can go out here and demand, hey, I need a Marlon Alex said that I had to
Good luck.
get a job for $1,000 a minute. Yeah, all right. But all I'm saying is that you got to wake up to the thing. Like, you've been being bought for so long that now you don't even know that's like you have been being bought. You don't even know that there's a possibility that you can create your own value. And that's what business entrepreneurship is. That's why I love it, because like, if I'm gonna be bought, I'm gonna buy myself. I'm gonna put the limit on myself, because it's like I know at the end of the day, if I start a business and it only gets to some part or if I start pursuing financial freedom and it only goes so far, I stop. It's something I did wrong along the way. But I know if like I could work a job for 30 years and only get a 2% raise every year, but I worked harder and harder and harder every year, that's not in my control. Yeah, they giving me a raise, but it's like that's not what I'm worth. I have no control over that. They giving me what they can pay me. And that's another thing too. It's like, because there was a whole conversation about like, when you leave the way to earn more money is leave your job every few years, because now a new employer has a different price.
Employee hacks.
Yeah. Those things. But yeah, in theory, and just relating back to this conversation, now you essentially get to reset because now it's like it's a new buyer, right? I don't want to put it uh in terms of slavery, but that's what it is at the end of the day. It's like, yo, it's a new plantation owner. Like this is what this plantation owner is like, okay. But the same plantation owner ain't gonna keep paying you. Like they're not gonna pay you what the market determines because you already determined your market value when you first took your first salary. Your first salary, if you stay at that same company, determine what you're gonna make for the rest of your life. But I know when I start my business, the first thing I make that first year is gonna be significantly less than what I make the second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, and so on. So to me, that's all it is at the end of the day.
Man, this whole conversation boils down to one word that you got to believe for yourself, and that's the word of confidence. Like, because when you said certain words, certain phrases earlier that I can't be bought or you can't afford me. Statements like that are not arrogant statements, but they're confident statements of knowing that what I can do is what I can provide for myself is way greater than what anybody else can do for me. I know that I value I value the knowledge that I have. I value the information that I have to build these businesses up to the point where I no longer value the lowball offer that you gave me for working for you. Yeah. Like, because my time is way more important than that. And I think that's really what a lot of stuff boils down to for both of us, is that we desire the time freedom. I can only make so much by trading in my time for money at this job or at wherever you work at. Like, and they are going to put a severe cap on it. And like I said, if you looked at that at a timeline of just seeing how your income is increasing, it's going to be it's like a slow growth to making money in a grand scheme of things, versus taking a chance on yourself, getting the right information, starting a business, learning the right investments to invest in, that where it's going to give you much more, where it's going to be able to grow exponential over time by you continuously putting in your time, your energy, your effort. That's where it all boils down to that confidence piece of being able to say I can do this, and it's gonna play out in my favor in the long run, versus taking a safe and secure route.
100%, man. That's all it is. So it's like, I hope y'all take this and listen to this and actually think about this. Think about this in terms of what you have been bought at for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life. What have people been able to buy me for? And tell yourself, nah, I'm worth more than that. Even if you've been bought at $100 an hour, which I know it feels good. I know it does, because you sitting there, it's like, they not giving this to nobody else. I know it feels good. Just know you can make more than that. You can make the LeBron James $583,000 an hour. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but that's the world we live in today. You can make as much as you want. You can earn as much as you determine your own value at the end of the day, unless you let your employer do it for you, which they will. You need to have a plan for your life, or you will become a part of other people's plans, right? If you don't have a plan for your life, you're just gonna fall into other people's plans. And trust me, they don't have a lot planned for you. So
no, that's big facts. And I just wanted to recap on going back to what you had said way earlier. You had said something earlier in regards to when you first set your number, your goal for financial freedom, when you wanted to achieve it by age 28. At that time, you didn't even know the process. You weren't on fire about it because you didn't necessarily know. For most people, you have to just have the confidence to say, I'm going to try this out, and because I believe in myself enough to at least start and figure things out along the way. Most people don't have that. Most people want to know the full staircase before they take the first step. You need to take the first step so the second one will be revealed to you.
But anyways, that's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. If you did, we'd appreciate if you rate us 5 stars. Yo, rate the podcast. Come on, man. Rate the podcast. What do y'all do?
I was saying this before, but people done dipped out already.
I know. I forgot. I meant to say it too. 178 reviews. Y'all are pathetic. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You can also find out more info about us on Twitter at the Monopolizers or IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.